Fernando,
Oh, so on
what are you working on?
the instructor corner.
You forgot to tell me you had a webinar at 10. That's all right, no deal. You'll do you afterwards.
Okay. Hello. Good morning. My name is Fernando Cabrera. I'm the National Education Coordinator for Latino Tax Pro. Let me fix my camera. Thank you so much for being with us. Good morning for everybody in the West Coast, and good afternoon for those of you in the East Coast. So today is our third Wednesday Instructor Corner, and we are having these meetings to help instructors in anything we can with their classes, teaching methodology, and presenting some ideas that can help them go through the process. One of those things that I recognized along the way that we have to work a little bit more is in how to use the elements or the components, the learning components that we have in our courses. One of the things that we have, one of the components is that we have the practice tax returns. Now, the practice tax returns are exercises that we develop so that the students can do a little bit of practice by hand in their chapters. So we have one particular exercise from chapter 2 to chapter 15, and we have a final exercise that is a comprehensive that includes several chapters. So the way that is distributed is from chapter 2 to chapter 15. We have an exercise, particularly for that chapter, in which the students will only use knowledge that they learn in that particular chapter to prepare a little tax return for the exercise. The information that we provide is literally only related to that information. None of those tax returns exercises are focused in future chapters. Everything is about this chapter, and of course it will include information from the previous chapters. For instance, chapter 2 is where all the stars, and is only gathering information about that from the taxpayer, and that particular exercise focusing teaching the students what are the forms they're going to need, what are the forms that they're going to receive from their clients, and the documents and information they have to gather from the taxpayer. One of the things that happened to me in my class in this year is that one of the students asked me if we were allowed to make copies of the documents such as the driver's license, social security, and birth certificates from the clients. And it was an interesting question because people come to this industry with the notion that we have to protect in clients' tax information, and that is wonderful because that will help them maintain continue working on their due diligence and the ethics in our industry. In any case, so that question was interesting, and then I had to explain to them that in order for us to comply with the due diligence portion of our work is that to keep a very well organized books with our with the documents. We will be in trouble if we don't do it right. So they understood that. But those are the kind of questions that make me realize what are the things that we have to add to our training. And one of the things that came up this year from my classes that we need a little bit more training in the actual work they're gonna do. Yes, we present the tax law, and there's a lot of information there, tons, pages and pages of tax law and what to do and what not to do. But in reality, when you are right there in front of a client, there are things that you forget. You know, you don't have a little bell on next to you that says, "Hey, remember this." So what I actually want to tell you or talk to you is about these exercises. They're not that complicated. In fact, chapter 2 and chapter 3 is basically information, because chapter 2 is about gathering taxpayers' information. So it only guides them through what kind of questions to ask. And then chapter 3 is about filing status, dependence, and standard deduction. So there's not much that we can do in the actual 1040, but just adding then the information, adding the clients and dependents information, personal information into the 1040. Then we save that. The real, if you want to call it like that, the real action comes in chapter 4, which is the chapter of the income. And in that tax return, there are several things that you have to consider. Instructors get not only the instructions for the exercises, but they also get all the forms already completed. And one thing that I notice is that when we do that, if we pay close attention to this, we will see that there are things that we have to utilize in those exercises. Let me open the exercise for chapter 2. So this is the exercise for chapter 2. And like I said, students will get the information. So this is the part that they get. They get all the instructions. They get a link to have students to download their forms that they're going to use. They have all the information they need from the client, including date of birth, social security number, address, and everything else. And the instructor, they have also the income forms, and the instructor gets the actual 1040 already completed. So this is what the information with the students ends, and this is the information for the tax that the instructor starts. And there are several things that I like to do. Let me go back. I wanna get one form so that I can show you what I want to do with this. So in thinking about what I can do, so this is what I decided to do in my class. So I decided to bring the 1040 that we can use and then explain to them how it is done in areas, so we can have the client's information, the client's dependents, all the income. And in this area, the income, which is the one that we're doing, I first explain what are the forms. Like right here is pretty good because we're gonna see we have all the income from W-2s, and specifically now this is something that is interesting. For me, I love this because that tells us exactly the income that we are reporting, and we don't have to wonder before. Now, in this case, I explained to them that kind of a form they're gonna get and how they're gonna report it. So all of this is information that the students need, because we usually give them the form and tell them you're gonna report it, but we're in the line, and like I don't know if you what kind of software you use, but we don't actually go line by line when we prepare the tax return in that software. We actually, at least in our case, we add the form, then add all the information in the form, and that goes directly into the line that is supposed to be recorded. But in this exercise, we tell the students, go to this line and report this income in that line. So the interesting thing, or the confusing part, I should say, the confusing part for the students is that they don't have a guide that tells them, hey, you have to go literally line by line, and that is what you do. We do say that it's a line by line, but there are students who don't actually believe it. So we have to make a connection in what is the form they're getting, how it is reported, and to follow through the rest of the lines to make sure that they don't have any other element that they can report. There's one particular thing that I always forget when I'm doing this, and that is the other income. And it is important that they can identify what the other income is, so they can bring it. At least for the exercises, we have one instance right here in which we have a couple of examples that we can use. For instance, we have 12,400 in Social Security benefits, and by this time the student understands the Social Security benefits are now taxable. They know this way before they came to the class, but then many of them are puzzled to find out that 10,540 of this is taxable. They ask why. Why is this taxable? So this is a great opportunity to go back and review when the Social Security income or benefits is taxable. Okay. The other thing that is important is that the students see that we have right here the amounts they have to use for the standard deduction, and then you have 28,700, which is not in this area, and the students will ask you why. So it's another great opportunity to go back to chapter, and this is usually treated in chapter 3. So it's not really in chapter 4, but it is part of chapter 3. So this is a great opportunity to ask questions about chapter 3 and say, when do taxpayers get an additional standard deduction? So this is an example in which we can not so much in adding the information, but also checking that students understand what they are adding into the lines in the form. This is another thing that I always recommend is, and this is because I got a question from one of our clients one time. He asked me, what is the best way to calculate the taxes the taxpayers will get, and also what is the best way to calculate, and I'm going to go off the chapter, what is the best way to calculate, the fastest or the most efficient way to calculate the earned income credit. So at first I was a little confused about that question, right? So I said, so should we multiply this and multiply that? That the taxes in the United States are gradual. So they go from, they pay 0 taxes at this point, they pay 10% at this point, 12% at this point, and that's how it goes in the brackets. So I was thinking about that, but then I remember all this information is already calculated in the instructions for the Form 1040. So I help the students. I bring my 1040 instructions document and show them how to get this number. I also do an exercise in in my software and explain to them how they're going to add the amounts, how they're going to see, and how I usually during this class I use two different softwares that I have access to. So I show them how it is different, but if they know, and this is a key point that I always remember them, if they know what they're looking for, then they will be able to find it in their software. One of the things that went that it was a little weird for students, at least for this year, is that this area, in this area, the students will for this too. So I have to actually, let me delete that. So I have to actually go take the information from the W-2, go here, add it together. When you have two more W-2s, add together the box 1 and explain the box 2 and add it is right here. And then take it 1099. 1099 that we have is taxable pensions. So we put 1099 income right here, taxable income, and then we put the payments of with federal tax withholdings right here. So this is the confusing part that I saw in my students, that they have to go from one thing to the other one thing to the other one, and the one place to the other one, right? But what I complimented, the way that I complimented their understanding was to open the software and show them that they're not going to go through that when they are in the actual interview, but they will just input the information into one area, and that area will flow to the 1040. And that is important to for them to understand, that they're not going to be faced with this in the real world. But the reason why we ask them to do this practice is so that they understand how the amounts flow from one form to the other form. And I know that some of you will think that is not really good, but for me, is you have to present both ways: how to do it in by hand, and how to do it in the software. And those of you who have the ability to use the software, or to allow your students to use the software, it's important that you do that, because that will give you an advantage over other people. For instance, if you are teaching this class so that you can hire people, then if you use this exercises to train your students in how to use your software, you are already, what is the saying say, killing two birds with one rock. In Spanish, we call it matar dos pájaros de un tiro. So that is an advantage for you, So that way you can visualize it. You can see how many of them are their abilities to not judge, but to see their abilities to maneuver through the software. There are people who are, even though they haven't done practice in software, in tax software, but they are really good in Facebook or other programs like that, and finding the way to maneuver or to navigate the software is important in this situation. So this is a really, really good practice for those people who are planning to hire. Remember the action. I mean, just this portion. Let's not consider anything else, but just the fact that you are using as a scenario to let them do it by hand and then do it by in your software, that is going to enhance their learning. Not only enhance their learning, but getting them a little bit of practice in your software, so that you can be able to hire and not have to go back from scratch, and allowing them to or training them in what they have to do. So you have let me see, 15 exercises. that is plenty for them to practice in your software, practice in by doing it by hand. So with those 14 throughout the chapters, and then the final exam or the final practice will be wonderful to develop their skills in the software and their knowledge in how the amounts flow from one form to the other one. Let me go back to this. I do have 3 participants. And do you guys have any questions? Let me go over the questions, comments, questions that we can go over. We have Jessica, Lorena, and Petra Lopez. Thank you guys for being with us. Let me see if we have any questions. Please do make your questions right now. I opened the chat, so let me see if I can send you a chat, and then you can answer through that. Or I can allow you to speak if you would like to. Would you like to say something? I allow you to speak so you can be able to communicate with me directly. Jessica, Lorena, Petra. Any questions?
No, todo está bien, está claro.
Muy bien, muy bien. Gracias.
Gracias.
Okay, so ¿qué tal los demás? How about the rest of you guys?
Yo empecé un poco tarde, eso estoy así, estoy confundida.
Okay,
Pero-
tenemos otra presentación a las 11 exactas, a las 11 en español. Si quiere, puede asistir a la de español a las 11 y luego ahí la empezamos desde el principio.
Ok, gracias.
Ándale, entonces si quieren acompañarme a las 11 de la mañana en unos 40 minutos, estaremos otra vez aquí con ustedes y voy a repasar esto nuevamente, pero en ese lo voy a hacer en español. ¿Ok? Muy bien, entonces voy a terminar. Muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros. Es como les... let me jump. Thank you so much for being with us. It ended up to be a bilingual presentation, but thank you so much for being with us, and I hope I can see you next week. All right, have a good day.
Gracias, bye.
Gracias, bye.